Fire if this story hit you hard. Don't forget to like, thumbs up, comment speech balloon, and subscribe bell for more powerful revenge stories that expose betrayal, family drama, and unforgettable comebacks. Your support helps bring more intense stories like this to life. And trust me, the next twist will be even crazier. Eyes. Loudspeaker, share this video with someone who loves revenge stories. My name is Vanessa Hale. I'm 34 years old, and the biggest mistake my mother ever made happened at my younger sister's wedding. In front of 300 guests, under crystal chandeliers and soft violin music. Inside a ballroom filled with rich strangers who loved drama almost as much as gossip. It started with one sentence. I was standing quietly near the dance floor with a champagne glass in my hand, trying to survive the evening without becoming my mother's target. My sister Lily's wedding looked perfect from the outside. White flowers, golden lights, ocean views through giant glass windows. A beautiful night, but beautiful rooms can still hold ugly people. My mother, Eleanor Hale, stood near the family table speaking to a group of guests. She wore an expensive navy dress, and that polished smile she always used before hurting someone publicly. Then she looked directly at me. "Oh look," she said loudly. Vanessa finally learned how to dress appropriately. A few guests laughed politely. I forced a smile, hoping she would stop there. She didn't. "At least one of my daughters became someone people can actually respect," she added while lifting her wine glass toward Lily. This time more people laughed. Not because it was funny, because people get uncomfortable when cruelty wears expensive perfume and speaks politely. I felt every eye in the ballroom slowly turn toward me. My mother continued smiling like she was giving a harmless joke instead of humiliating her own daughter. "Vanessa always enjoyed attention," she continued. "Lily preferred building a real future." Lily looked embarrassed immediately. "Mom," she whispered quietly. But my mother ignored her. That was the problem with Eleanor Hale. Once she had an audience, she never stopped willingly. For a second, I felt 16 again. Small. Embarrassed. Powerless. My mother had spent most of my life comparing me to Lily. Lily was elegant, obedient, easy to show off in public. I was different. I argued. I asked difficult questions. I refused to become smaller just to make other people comfortable. When I started my first business at 21, my mother called it a cute little hobby. Back then, I owned a small coffee cart in San Diego. During mornings, I sold coffee outside office buildings. At night, I catered tiny events just to survive. I worked constantly. Sometimes I slept inside my car because paying for hotels felt irresponsible when employees needed salaries. Slowly, the business grew. Coffee carts became catering. Catering became luxury hospitality. And eventually, Hale Hospitality Group became one of the fastest-growing event companies in Southern California. But no success was ever enough for my mother. When Lily graduated from law school, my parents threw a huge celebration party. When I signed my first $1 million contract, my mother told relatives I decorated parties for rich people. 6 years earlier, after another humiliating Thanksgiving dinner, I stopped speaking to my parents completely. Until 3 weeks ago. That's when Lily's wedding invitation arrived at my condo in Newport Beach. Inside was a handwritten note. "Vanessa, I know things have been broken for a long time, but I still want my sister at my wedding. Please come. Love, Lily." I almost didn't go, but part of me still missed my little sister. So I showed up. The wedding took place at a luxury resort in Malibu, overlooking the ocean. By then, my company had become huge. 3 months earlier, we had acquired a luxury catering company called Ivory Lane Events. At the time, it felt like another normal business deal. I had no idea that detail was about to destroy my mother's perfect evening. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Lily looked happy. Guests cried during the vows. For one dangerous moment, I thought maybe the night would end peacefully. Then dinner started, and so did my mother. At first the insults were small. Tiny comments. Sharp little jokes hidden inside fake smiles. But after a few glasses of champagne, Eleanor decided she wanted a bigger audience. A guest near my table asked politely whether I still worked in events. Before I could answer, my mother laughed loudly across the ballroom. "Oh, Vanessa doesn't run a serious company," she said. "She throws fancy parties and pretends she's a CEO." People laughed again. Then my mother stood up holding her champagne glass. The room became quiet. Everyone expected a loving wedding speech. Instead, my mother turned me into entertainment. My mother smiled proudly as the ballroom went silent around her. Soft piano music still played in the background. Candlelight reflected across crystal glasses. Waiters moved carefully between tables, while nearly 300 guests focused completely on Eleanor Hale. And my mother loved every second of it. "I'm very proud of Lily," she said emotionally. "She built a life with grace, stability, and class." Guests smiled politely. Then Eleanor slowly turned toward me. "But as parents," she continued, "you eventually learn that some children naturally become respectable adults, while others spend their lives chasing attention." Several people laughed nervously. Lily's smile disappeared immediately. "Mom, please stop," she whispered. But Eleanor ignored her again. That was always her way. Once she started humiliating someone publicly, she enjoyed watching people become uncomfortable. She lifted her champagne glass slightly higher. "Some women mistake independence for success," she added. "But being loud doesn't make you accomplished." More awkward laughter spread through the ballroom. I stayed completely still. Inside, though, I could feel old memories waking up. Every family dinner where my mother mocked me. Every holiday where Lily was praised while I was criticized. Every moment I worked twice as hard just to prove I deserved basic respect. Then came the final line. The one she had clearly prepared in advance. "At least one of my daughters became someone people can truly be proud of." The room fell quiet afterward. Not comfortable silence. Heavy silence. Even strangers looked embarrassed now. Lily looked horrified. My father stared down at the table pretending not to notice anything, exactly the way he had done my entire life. My mother expected me to react. Maybe cry. Maybe yell. Maybe storm out emotionally so she could later call me unstable and dramatic. Instead, I stood calmly. I placed my napkin beside my plate and smiled politely. "Congratulations on the beautiful wedding," I said softly. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, the ballroom stayed strangely quiet. As I crossed near the service hallway, one of the event staff members suddenly froze after seeing me. "Ms. Hale?" she asked carefully. I stopped immediately. I recognized her too. Her name was Brianna. She had worked several luxury charity events for one of our hospitality divisions months earlier. Suddenly, something clicked inside my head. The staff movement. The service style. The tray rotations. I looked toward a large black catering case sitting near the kitchen doors. And there it was. A silver logo stamped clearly across the side. Ivory Lane Events. My company. For one second, I honestly almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, because the irony felt unreal. My mother had just publicly humiliated me during a wedding reception catered by a company she didn't realize I owned. Everything inside me became very calm after that. Very cold. Very clear. I stepped farther into the hallway and pulled out my phone. Then I called Amanda Pierce, my chief operations officer. She answered immediately. "Amanda," I said quietly, "is the Ivory Lane team here operating fully under Hale Hospitality Authority?" "Yes," she answered. "Why?" I looked back through the ballroom doors. My mother still stood proudly near the center of the room, smiling like she had won something important. She had no idea her perfect evening was seconds away from collapsing. Then I spoke carefully. Ownership was publicly insulted in front of staff and guests. Activate the hostile conduct clause. Suspend service and pull the team. Amanda became silent for 1 second. Then she asked softly, "Are you sure?" "Completely." I handed the phone to Brianna. "Follow corporate instructions," I told her calmly. The color drained from her face as Amanda confirmed everything. Then the shutdown began. Quietly. Professionally. Fast. Radios clicked alive across the service corridor. Kitchen staff stopped plating meals. Servers carrying trays suddenly changed direction. Desserts disappeared back into refrigeration. Transport carts rolled toward the loading entrance. And inside the ballroom, almost nobody noticed at first. The band continued playing. Guests kept drinking and talking. My mother sat down proudly beside Lily, completely satisfied with herself. Then the delay started feeling strange. One table checked their watches. Another table looked around for servers. A bridesmaid walked toward the kitchen looking confused. Within minutes, whispers started spreading across the ballroom. The wedding planner hurried toward the service area with panic written all over her face. Then the venue manager followed. Both women disappeared into the hallway. A minute later, they both looked directly toward me. That was the moment confusion became fear. Guests noticed trays disappearing instead of arriving. Music still played, but the energy inside the room changed completely. People stopped laughing. Now they were watching. A groomsman joked nervously. "What happened? Did the kitchen catch fire?" Nobody laughed. Then the venue manager walked quickly toward my mother. She bent down beside her chair and whispered something quietly. I watched my mother's entire face change. The smile vanished instantly. Color drained from her skin. She looked across the ballroom directly at me with sudden disbelief. Then fear. Real fear. She stood up so fast her chair nearly tipped backward. What do you mean ownership? I heard her snap loudly. The venue manager answered carefully. And suddenly my mother understood everything. Her eyes locked onto mine from across the ballroom. For the first time that night, she looked powerless. My mother pushed past the wedding planner and walked straight toward me. Angry. Panicked. Behind her, Lily hurried forward in her wedding dress, while my father followed silently. The entire ballroom watched. What is going on? My mother demanded sharply. I stayed calm. Ivory Lane Events belongs to Hale Hospitality Group, I said evenly. My company. For a second, she just stared at me. Then her face changed completely. No, she snapped. That's impossible. It isn't. Lily looked shocked. You own the catering company? I nodded once. After publicly insulting ownership in front of employees and guests, I continued calmly. The hostile conduct clause was activated. Service has been terminated. My mother's expression filled with fury. You cannot be serious. Yes, I answered quietly. I am. Around us, guests openly stared while staff members continued removing equipment behind the scenes. This is your sister's wedding, my mother hissed. And you turned me into entertainment at it, I replied. That silenced her for a moment. Then came the insults. Vindictive. Selfish. Unstable. Lily suddenly stepped forward. Mom, stop. No, my mother snapped. Your sister is ruining your wedding because she needs attention. Lily looked exhausted. No, she said quietly. You ruined it. The ballroom went completely silent. Even my father looked shocked. For the first time, Lily had openly challenged our mother. My mother looked around the room desperately, searching for support. Nobody defended her. Nobody moved. For once, the silence belonged to her instead of me. My father finally spoke. Vanessa, you're humiliating this family. I looked directly at him. No, I said calmly. I stopped allowing this family to humiliate me. That shut him up instantly. Nearby, servers continued rolling expensive meals out of the ballroom while confused guests whispered across tables. The wedding planner approached nervously. Is there any way service can continue tonight? I shook my head politely. Corporate decision. My mother laughed bitterly. So this is revenge? I looked at her quietly. No. This is a boundary. That sentence changed the room. People stopped looking at me like the problem, and started looking at my mother differently. Not admiringly. Carefully. Like they were finally seeing who she really was. Lily's eyes filled with tears. I asked you not to do this, she whispered to our mother. Eleanor looked stunned. I was joking. No, Lily answered painfully. You weren't. I handed the venue manager my business card. Please send all incident reports to corporate legal tomorrow morning. Then I looked at Lily. I'm sorry your wedding ended this way, I said softly. And I meant it. After that, I turned and walked toward the exit while chaos slowly exploded behind me. Outside, cold ocean air hit my face as I reached the valet stand. I expected guilt. Instead, I felt relief. Because for the first time in my life, my mother tried humiliating me publicly. And failed to control the ending. The fallout lasted for weeks. My mother threatened lawsuits. Family members called me cruel. But once lawyers reviewed the footage and contracts, everything became quiet very fast. Eventually, my parents signed a settlement agreement and accepted partial refunds. No apology. Just silence. But something unexpected happened afterward. People from the wedding started contacting my company. Some apologized for laughing. Others admired how professionally everything had been handled under pressure. Even Lily changed. A month later, she admitted something I had waited years to hear. I should have stopped her a long time ago. That mattered. Over time, Lily distanced herself from our parents and started rebuilding her life without my mother controlling every part of it. As for me, I finally learned something important. Silence does not create peace. It creates permission. My mother thought she was reminding everyone which daughter mattered more. Instead, she reminded me exactly who I had become. A woman who finally refused to stay seated while disrespect was served like part of the meal.